Hey guys, this is Jake with P3. In this video, we are going to show you how to install the display portion of your booster multi-gauge into your Buick Regal or Opel Insignia vent. We've got our OEM vent here, and we've got our display, so we can go ahead and get started. First thing we want to check is to make sure your gauge is working. You can do this just by plugging the gauge into your OBD2 port in your car, start your car up, make sure it's working correctly. We just want to make sure that it's displaying information, the buttons respond, you know, it powers up, that kind of thing. This one's good to go, so we'll go ahead and start with our install. The first thing we're going to need to do on this is take the face off of the vent housing. This plastic is strangely stiff but soft, so you want to be kind of careful. It can crack. Some of these tabs may crack as you're taking the face off, and some of them are already cracked every once in a while from the factory. So just be careful, work your way slowly, follow the video, and you should be fine. And I like to just go ahead and start at the top and release the tabs one by one. What you want to do is pull on the face as you're lifting up on the tab, and it'll help it disengage. See that one crack just with a little bit of pressure there. So it is kind of a soft plastic. But once it goes back together, it'll still snap in the same. It'll just have a small crack in it. And if one of these were to break, typically they'll crack and they'll still hold in place just the same, but as long as you just are careful when you reinstall it, it'll hold together just fine. On these bottom ones, I like to take a small screwdriver, just kind of wedge in between the housing and the face there, and it helps disengage those tabs like that. Just want to get under that loop and pry up a little bit. That should just give it just enough room to get out of there. Like that. Like, see this one right here cracked. That'll be fine. That'll still hold on this part, but this plastic's just a little bit soft and brittle. Alright, so this display is going to take the place of the top three vent slats. And these are a little bit difficult just because this whole housing is just a one-piece design, and there's no side brackets that come out, so we actually have to stretch the vent just a little bit to get these slats to come out, since they have a peg on each side. And so what I'll do typically is just take a pair of side cuts, little snips, and I won't actually cut the slat, but I'll just kind of grab it and wedge it out like that. You're just kind of rolling it out of place, just like so. Do that one too. And then what you can do is just hold pressure on the slat with this slider bar, hold that vent slat into place. As you pull these two out, you can just do them one by one. They should just pop right out of place like that. Like that. And then we also need to remove this top trim piece. It just falls right out. Okay. So now we've got our opening for our display. The cable is going to need to go to the far left of the leftmost vent slat there. And what we want to do with the display is we want that cable to be all the way against the side. So we don't want to fold it over just right out of the back of the display there. You want to actually bring it over to the side and then fold it. So you want it to, that way you want it to basically be all the way over as far as it can go, and that's going to keep it out of the way of the vertical slats and let that move easier. So we'll go ahead and feed our display cable through. We want one side has a pink cable on it. We want that side facing down toward the bottom of the vent. That's going to help us keep our cable from twisting and to keep it flat against the side of the housing. So we can pull it through. And on this, you'll notice that these two mounting tabs are longer than these two mounting tabs. These are actually quite a bit shorter. And the way we want to install this is we want to make sure we put these two in first. That way when we have to spread the housing, you don't have to spread it as far, and these two will slide in much easier. If you were to do this side, the left side first, and try to wedge this side in, it's going to be really difficult since these pegs are so long. So basically, you want to bring it in. Just line your two right side pegs up. Make sure they fully go through. You may push the little axle out there like I did. Okay, so now you can see that it almost fits into place, and it just needs just spread just a little bit. And what I like to do is to take a screwdriver, put it in here, and then just gently pry it up a little bit. I'm almost into place now. You may need to slide it up a little bit but I just give it just a little bit. See, you can check where you're at. Looks like we're close, but we're not quite there. Just keep doing that until you get it into place. So we just need to go up a little bit. There we go. So those are now in place. One thing you do not want to do is, before the pegs engage the holes, you don't want to just push, or else what's going to happen to those fingers is as you push them in, they'll just fold over like this. So you want to make sure that they're straight still so that they can engage the holes and lock the display into place. Once again, if you just push in without spreading the vent, you'll just fold those fingers and then the display won't actually be held in place correctly. Okay, so now we can put the face of our trim back on. And I like to start at the bottom. Just line up this slot with the vent wheel to make sure it's lined up good. And then you can go ahead and just snap the vent into place. And here's that broken one from before. You'll hear it snap into place, right? It'll still hold just fine. And then we want to make sure the top, that our locking tabs go under the loops on the housing, like that. See, even though that's cracked, it'll still engage correctly. And then on this one, the top loop's missing, but it'll still snap on once we get it lined up here. Look at that side, and then so they still all lock together well. On some of these, when they do crack, this isn't necessary for you guys at home if you don't want to do it. I'll just put just a dab of glue on these just to help hold them in place. I don't think they'd ever come apart, but you know, during shipping and stuff, just as a precaution, I like to put a little bit of just a dab of glue on some of these if they do crack. And if you're doing that on the bottom, you want to make sure you don't get any on the vent wheel. That way when you roll it, it doesn't get stuck. Okay, so at this point, we want to make sure that our cable in the back is not twisted in any way. Let's slide out of the way. We want to make sure it's not twisted like this. We want it to be nice and flat against the side of the housing. And we do not want to pull tension out. We actually want to just let it sit freely and maybe even push just a tad bit of slack back up into the vent that way. And then once you get it in place, go ahead and pinch it against the sidewall and then shut your air flap slat. That's going to hold the cable into place for you. The reason we do that is if you pull tension out of the back of the vent, your cable that used to run over to the side will now be pulled tight against the vertical slats, and it'll prevent movement. So what we do by just pushing a little bit of slack forward is actually getting that cable to tuck up into the corner. That way it's away from those vertical slats. At this point, you can just, if you're home, you can just go ahead and fold this around the back like that and pinch it. That'll kind of hold it in place. And now when you insert it into the plenum in the vehicle, that's going to hold it in place. The foam will seal around that cable just fine. And this cable is designed to fold around tightly around the back. It's not going to damage anything, as long as it's not twisted. If you've got it all twisted up and then force it in, you could have issues. That's why we want to make sure it's nice and flat. When I do pre-installed units here at the shop, I'll also do just a dab of glue underneath the cable on both the inside and the outside. And that's just going to further help hold it in place so it's easier for you guys to install. The cable's not flapping around on you or anything like that. Just an extra step. It's not required, so if you're not, if you don't have access to glue or 3M tape or anything like that at home, or you just don't feel like doing it, not a big deal. It's just a little extra step, personal preference. Okay, so we want to go ahead and check here. We got a little bit of grease from the install. Go ahead and check the movement of your vent slats. Make sure they all move correctly. We got our left down and our left right and our up down, and then we've got our air flap is still moving correctly in the back. And then we can go ahead and fire it up one more time just to make sure it's working after the install. Make sure we didn't mess anything up with the cable or anything. Just go ahead and plug it into your car, plug it into the OBD2 port, and start your vehicle. And yeah, should be good to go. This one is good to go, ready for install in the vehicle. Please let us know if you guys have any questions. We want to make sure these videos are helpful and useful to you guys. So if you have any questions, suggestions, anything like that, just let us know below. Also be sure to follow us on our Instagram page at P3Gauges, and also check out our website out, p3gauges.com. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow us. Thanks, guys.